let's make our collectible item, which in this case is going to be a battery. So we're going to have a battery which the robot can collect. If the robot collects the battery, the robot gets a bit more life, and we're also going to keep count of how many batteries we collect so that we can make certain things in the game, if we want to, conditional, like you have to have collected a certain amount of batteries before you can get to a certain level, or before a certain door would open, so on and so forth. Let's get on with that. So I'm going to delete soaring platform. Now I've got my level template up, but what I want is a new scene. So I'm going to go scene, new scene, 2D scene. And again, double click, and I'm going to call it, I want to call it battery. You could call it collectible if you wanted, because maybe in the game you want to build, it would be something else, but I'm going to call it battery. And of course I need to change type, so control click. And the type I want is an area 2D, which we've seen before. All right. And I'm going to get the warning that I don't have a collision shape. But what I want to do before I do the collision shape is add a sprite. Nope, that's the wrong thing to click. I need the plus. I want a sprite. Sprite 2D. Good. And I want, again, clicking on the battery. Well, I tell you what, let's do the sprite 2D. So I've got that, and over here it says texture. So I need some art to put in there. Assets, art. Again, I want the sprite sheet, and I want the battery. So I simply click the battery PNG over here to where it says texture. That looks good. And again, I'm going to need to have to tell it how many frames I've got. So horizontally, I've got 2. Vertically, I've also got 2. And then we have a picture of a battery. Looking good. Now I can see how big our sprite is. I can add the collision shape. So I click on the plus and I go collision. Collision shape 2D. So that's my collision 2D added. And again, we've got the warning because we haven't got a shape. Let's get a rectangle shape. Let's make it a teeny bit bigger so it covers the whole battery. And I'm still got snapping on. So if it that looks really good. I was about to say, if it snaps wrongly, doesn't fit, the whole thing turns snapping off, which you can do just by clicking that thing there. But it snaps quite well. So I've got my area 2D, which is the battery, the parent node. Got my sprite, got my collision shape 2D. Excellent. In order to animate our battery, we need to add another node. This time what we want is an animation player node. So animation player. Double click. The animation player is a very powerful node. In addition to allowing us to animate the sprite, which is what we're going to do here, by the way, it allows us to animate all sorts of other properties, as we shall see. Let's create an animation. I'm going to click down here on animation. Then I'm going to click new. It wants a name. It's what I'm going to do is make the batteries lightning bolt here flash. So I'm just going to call it flash. Click OK. You will see now we've created an animation that a load of keys appear. And they're everywhere. Anything with a key next to it, we can animate using an animation player. So a very different node to the animated sprite that we saw earlier. That said, I am going to use this animation player to animate the sprite. So I could have used an animated sprite node, but I want to give you practice using the animation player, as we're going to use it a lot later with the enemy and then later the player animation. So I wanted you to have a bit of practice at it first. I'm going to lengthen the animation. So I click here next to the clock and I'm going to call it, I'm going to say 1.8 seconds animation. And what I want the battery to do is be black most of the time, but then flash orange a couple of times and then go back to being black. I don't want the battery constantly flashing because I think that will be an annoyance to the player. Just want it to flash every now and again to attract the player's attention. If this timeline here is too big or too small, you can adjust it using this slider. But mine is 1.8 seconds of an animation, so that's about right. I can see all of those things. Right, let's start animating. I want to animate the property frame. I'm going to change the frame from the black frame to the orange frame and then back again. So I want the frame. So I go add track, property track, because this key here represents the property frame, this one the V frames, this one the frame coordinates, so on and so forth. Property track is what I want. What node do I want to animate? The sprite 2D. What do I want to animate on the sprite 2D, or what property do I want to animate? It's the frame. Click that. All right, cool. The playhead is at 0. If you want to move the playhead, you can click and drag, or you can write up here. So if I wanted to move it to 0.5, I type in 0.5 and it moves back to 0. So the playhead is at 0, and what frame do we want at 0? Well, we want this frame, which is frame 0. So to specify frame 0 at this point in the animation, I just click the key. And that does what we call a keyframe. This is my keyframe. At 0 seconds, this particular property is value 0, okay? I want it to stay there for 1 second before it flashes, so I'm going to move the player to 1 second. Come over here again to frame, change it to 1, and you'll see up here it's changed to orange. Keyframe it. Move it forward 0.1 of a second. Come over here, change it back to frame 0, keyframe it. Move it forward 0.1 of a second. Change it to 1, keyframe it. And move it on another 0.1 of a second. Change it back to 0 and keyframe it. So if I play this animation, it's going to sit there for a second and then flash. And I think that's what we want. But feel free, as always, to do what you think is best for you. So that's the animation done. Didn't take too long, did it? Before we go any further, let's put the battery in our level and see if the animation works. Before I do that, I just want to check a few things. I have it looping, and I have autoplay on load. Okay, let's go into our level template. And immediately click level template to select it as the parent node. And I'm going to add a node 2D again. There it is. And I'm going to double click, and I'm going to call it collectibles, just to keep the scene tree tidy. Is it collectables or collectibles? I think it's apples. All right. Now, we want the chain icon. And we want battery. Select battery. It appears again at the origin 0.0, so I'm just going to click it. And I'm just going to move it like that. That looks good. Let's play the scene and see if we can see it flash. There it is. And it's flashing. Excellent. Right, I'm going to delete this battery because I'm going to do more things to it. Delete that. So, back into our battery scene. Before we do anything else, we have to do the collision layers So I'm going to just click battery there, and you'll see that I am layer 1, which is player, so I don't want that. Click it. I'm a prop, so 5. But we can interact with the player, and that's all we can interact with. So that's fine. Save that. We have got the battery flashing. We've got it animated. What we need to do now is make it respond to being collected. Okay, so for that, we need something we've used before, which is a signal. The parent node is an area 2D. So if we go into, with battery selected, area 2D, we go into node, it gives us a choice of these signals, exactly like it did before. Again, we want on body entered. Double click. You might remember this. And it says scene does not contain any script, so back we go. Click on the icon to attach an existing script or a new script. And it says, okay, so it's not giving me the path of the node that I've saved. So if I change that, I go into props. Oh yeah, that's fine. Open props, and it'll save it in props battery g.gd, where it has saved the scene. Cool. We don't need the ready function or the process function, so delete those. And we'll try and add the script. We'll try and add the signal again. So into node, already entered, double click. So here, look, it says battery connecting from. So we are connecting from the parent node to the parent node. That's fine, we can do that. And it gives us a function. So all I'm going to do so far, later we will have a GUI saying how many batteries we've collected. We'll keep a record of how many batteries we've collected, and we might use that to conditionally perform a task later in the game. Right now, I'm just going to print what do I need? That was right. Collectable collected. Print what you want, but I think that makes the message pretty clear. On the next line, we want to make the battery disappear entirely from the game. For that, we use the command q3. And it should appear when you start typing it, but if it doesn't, remember to put the brackets at the end because it's a function. I'm going to save that. So now, when we collect the battery in the game, it should disappear and we should get collectable collected printed on the console there. Let's go back into level template. Click on collectibles, instantiate a new battery. 2D view. And play the game. Well, no, we can't play the game because the battery's over here. So let's just put it here maybe. And we'll try and collect it. So, play the game. Move the game over here because we need to see what's written in the console. Collectible collected. All right, I'm just going to do that again because just to check it was flashing. So click on that little arrow there to play the game again. And it is flashing. Good. Let's just collect it again. Collectible collected. I have just noticed that the battery is not saved in the props folder. So let's put it in the props folder. Simply click and drag into props. There we go. Our directory structure is looking neat again. All right, so that's our collectible done. I will see you in the next section.